I think we need to start today by talking about a very specific and honestly, a very painful kind of heartbreak.
Mm-hmm.
It's that feeling you get in the kitchen. You know the scene, right? You've got the apron on, flour on your nose. Maybe you've even put on a little Italian jazz to set the mood.
Oh, I know it well, the anticipation.
Exactly. You've spent 3, maybe 4 hours waiting, checking the clock. You pull the baking sheet out of the oven, and it's a tragedy.
It's the silence that gets you. You tap the crust, and it doesn't sound hollow. It sounds like a brick.
A brick, yes. The bread is flat. The pizza crust could be used as a weapon. It's rock hard. And my mind immediately goes to one place.
Let me guess. The yeast packet on the counter.
Yep. This yeast is defective. I bought the bad batch.
That is the most common defense mechanism in baking. We blame the ingredients. The yeast is lazy, it's old, it just didn't feel like working today.
It protects the ego.
It does.
Mm-hmm.
But the stack of research we're diving into today suggests that, well, your yeast isn't lazy at all. In fact, it's a workaholic.
A workaholic.
It is. It lived to work. So if your dough didn't rise, it's almost never because the biology just failed. It's usually because of a communication breakdown.
A communication breakdown. I like that framing. So we aren't just following a recipe where, what did the source material call it? A peace treaty with yeast.
That's the one.
Which, I have to say, sounds a little dramatic for a loaf of bread. A treaty? Really?
It sounds dramatic, but it's pretty accurate. I mean, the whole mission for this deep dive is to stop baking bricks. We're going to decode the biology of this living organism so you can understand the why behind the recipe.
So move from just following steps to actually understanding the creature in your kitchen.
Exactly.
And that's the key shift, isn't it? Viewing it as a creature, not
Yeah.
just an ingredient like salt or sugar. So let's start there, at that baseline. What exactly is this pet in our mixing bowl?
That's the fundamental thing to get. Yeast is a fungus. It's a single-celled organism. It is not baking powder.
Right, baking powder is a chemical.
It's a chemical. You get it wet. It fizzes. Reaction's over. Yeast is. It's alive. It breathes. It eats sugar. It drinks water. And it reproduces.
It's just a little weird to think about a fungus breathing inside my dinner.
Well, it's biological respiration. It's taking in sugar, and it's releasing carbon dioxide.
Yeah.
Those are the bubbles that make your bread rise. But because it's alive, it has needs.
And moods. Does it have moods? Because it really feels like it does sometimes.
In a way, yeah. The sources describe it perfectly. If you treat yeast wrong, it sulks.
It sulks.
It just crosses its little arms, shuts down its metabolism, and refuses to work.
It goes on strike.
It goes on strike. And when the yeast is on strike, no gas, no structure, no rise, flatbread.
Okay, so to get that fluffy, airy texture, we have to avoid making it sulk. Looking at our notes, we've got 4 major crimes against yeast here. Let's call them the 4 deadly sins of baking. And the first one is called the silent murder. That sounds ominous.
It is ominous because it happens instantly, and usually with the best of intentions. This is all about temperature.
Oh, I am so guilty of this one. You know the scenario. It's a Tuesday night, I'm in a rush, I want the dough to rise faster, so my brain goes, warm water is good, so hot water must be faster.
It's a logical leap.
Right. More energy, more speed.
Logical for dissolving sugar, but fatal for biology. You have to remember, water isn't just a liquid to yeast. It's habitat.
So what's actually happening when I dump that steaming hot water from the tap onto the yeast?
The science says that temperatures above, say, 45 to 50 degrees Celsius, that's about 113 to 122 Fahrenheit. That's the tipping point.
At that point.
The proteins inside the yeast cell denature.
Denature.
Think of an egg white hitting a hot pan. The proteins unravel, they harden, they cook, and you cannot uncook them. It is instant death.
So I'm not speeding it up. I'm cooking it.
You're boiling it alive.
Yeah.
And dead yeast can't eat sugar or make the carbon dioxide you need. You've killed the workforce before the shift even started.
Wow. Okay. So scalding hot is bad, but I've also used water that's too cold and nothing. The bowl just sits there for hours. So what is the biological sweet spot?
It's remarkably specific, and it's basically body temperature. You're aiming for 35 to 38 degrees Celsius. That's 95 to 100 Fahrenheit.
Okay, but I'm going to be honest. I don't always want to dig out the thermometer and sanitize it and fiddle with the tap. Is there a trick? A way to know without the gadget?
There is. It's a classic chef's trick, the finger test.
Yeah.
But you have to know what you're looking for because your intuition will probably trick you.
How so?
Most people stick their finger in and they're searching for warmth, like a nice hot bath. But 100 degrees Fahrenheit is pretty much your own body temperature.
So if I stick my finger in, I shouldn't feel much of anything.
Exactly. It should feel neither hot nor cold. It should feel neutral. If you put your finger in it and think, ooh, that's toasty, it's probably too hot.
And if I pull it out because it's chilly, too cold. So I'm looking for nothing.
The source material uses the analogy of a tropical climate.
Or-
Warm, humid, but not suffocating. That's the zone.
Got it. Okay, so mistake number 1 is boiling our pet. Let's move to mistake number 2. This one's called the osmotic enemy. Sounds like a villain from a sci-fi movie.
It does, but it's a very real threat. And this one is about salt.
Another one where I just dump everything in the bowl at once. Flour, yeast, salt. Why is that a problem?
It's a risky game. See, salt is vital for flavor and for gluten structure, but pure salt is, well, an osmotic enemy to yeast.
Okay, unpack osmotic enemy for me. What is happening at the cellular level?
It all comes down to osmosis. Nature wants balance. Salt is hygroscopic, just pulls water towards it. So if you drop pure salt crystals right on top of a yeast cell, the salt creates this high-pressure zone outside the cell, and it literally pulls the moisture right out of the yeast through its cell walls.
It sucks them dry.
Dehydrates them instantly. It's like slapping the worker before their shift even begins. They're not going to get much done.
That's a vivid image. Okay, so how do we get the salt in because we need it without murdering the yeast?
It's all about separation. The sources are really clear on this. They should never touch initially.
So separate corners of the boxing ring?
Exactly. If you watch a pro baker, they'll put the flour in a pile, the yeast on one side, and the salt on the complete opposite side. They're social distancing.
And then what? You just mix it all up anyway.
You do, but usually you mix the flour and yeast together first, or dissolve the yeast in the water first. Once the yeast has that buffer of flour or water around it, it's protected.
So the flour is like a mediator.
It is. It dilutes the impact. But that initial direct crystal-to-cell contact, that's what's so lethal.
Okay, so we've got the temperature right. We've kept the salt separated. Now we get to mistake number 3, which feels like the most modern problem. The source calls it the rush.
This is where modern life clashes with ancient biology. We're all about instant gratification. But baking isn't like mixing vinegar and baking soda. It's biological reproduction.
And reproduction takes time.
A lot of time. The yeast needs to eat, then reproduce, and that process creates the gas that lifts the dough. If you rush it, you're just putting underdeveloped dough in the oven.
The notes mention 3 scenarios here: too cold, too hot, and too short.
Right. Too cold, the yeast sleeps. Dense dough. Too hot, but not hot enough to kill it. The yeast panics. It rises too fast, but the gluten isn't ready, so it collapses.
And too short is just, we didn't wait long enough.
Pretty much. The yeast hasn't had time to multiply enough to lift the structure.
So what's the ideal scenario for the rise?
You're looking for an ambient room temperature about 24 to 28 degrees Celsius. A comfy, slightly warm room.
But my kitchen in the winter is not that. It's an ice box. So what do? The source had a hack for this.
This is a great little trick. You turn your oven on, but only for like 30 to 60 seconds. Then you turn it off immediately.
Just 30 seconds.
You're not preheating, you're just breaking the chill. You create a little pocket of residual warmth, then you put your covered bowl inside that turned off oven. It's a perfect little proofing box.
That's brilliant. It's like an artificial tropical climate.
Exactly. But there's another layer to the rush we have to talk about. It's not just about rising, it's about flavor. The expert commentary we read really stressed that time equals flavor.
Right. I've had bread that looked great. It rose, but it tasted like nothing.
That's fast bread. You force a rise in an hour, you get structure, but not taste. But if you slow it down, push it to 4 hours, or even longer, that's when the yeast creates byproducts.
Byproducts like what?
Things like organic acids, alcohol, esters. These are the compounds that give bread that complex, nutty, slightly sour flavor. You can only get that with time.
Which brings us to the pro move in the notes, cold fermentation. This felt counterintuitive because cold makes yeast sleep, right?
It's a paradox, but it's the secret weapon of great pizzerias. You make the dough, but instead of leaving it on the counter, you stick it in the fridge for 24, even 48 hours.
So the yeast goes to sleep.
It slows down, way down, but it doesn't stop. But here's the magic. While the yeast is in slow motion, the enzymes in the flour are wide awake. They start breaking down starches and gluten.
So it's basically pre-digesting the dough for you.
Exactly. And that slow fermentation develops this incredible deep flavor profile you just cannot get at room temperature. Plus, the dough becomes much easier for us to digest.
So that restaurant quality crust that doesn't make you feel bloated, it's all about planning a day ahead.
Patience is an ingredient. You have to spend it.
Okay, final mistake. Mistake number 4. The sabotage. This one hit home for me because it comes from pure panic.
Ah, yes. The sticky dough panic.
Yes, the dough is sticking to everything, it's a mess, it feels wrong, and what do? You grab the flour bag and just start throwing it in.
And you keep adding more.
And more.
And that's the innocent sabotage. You think you're fixing it, but you're actually building a concrete block.
How does adding flour ruin it?
It's the ratio. The yeast is trying to blow up a balloon made of gluten. If you keep adding flour, you lower the hydration. The gluten becomes incredibly tough and tight.
So the balloon becomes a stone.
Precisely. The yeast pushes, but the structure is too stiff to expand. You get a dense, heavy loaf.
But the stickiness is so frustrating. The source says the dough should be sticky.
It should, especially for things like focaccia. A good dough should be slightly sticky. It might stick to the counter a bit, but, and this is the key, it shouldn't stick to your hand in a way you can't get it off.
So what's the fix? If I can't add flour, how do I handle the mess?
You don't change the dough. You change your hands. You oil your hands.
Oil instead of flour.
A little olive oil on your hands prevents the sticking completely without changing the dough's chemistry. It's a barrier. And the other trick is just to wait.
Waiting again?
Always. Often, a dough feels sticky because the gluten is tense. Just cover it, walk away for 10 minutes, let the gluten relax. You come back, and that sticky mess is suddenly smooth and elastic.
That's a game changer. Put down the flour, pick up the oil, and take a break.
You have to trust the hydration. Wet dough equals moist bread. Dry dough equals brick.
Okay, so we've navigated the minefield. We didn't boil the yeast, assault it with salt, we gave it time, we didn't choke it with flour. Now we're at the end game. How do we know it's actually ready?
This is where you have to stop looking at the clock. The recipe says an hour, but your kitchen might take 2. You have to look at the dough.
What are the signs?
First is volume. It has to double. That's the visual cue. But the tactile cue is even more important. It's called the touch test.
Walk me through the touch test.
You gently press your finger into the side of the dough, maybe half an inch, and you watch the rebound.
What's the ideal reaction?
It should be soft, elastic, and when you take your finger away, the dent should bounce back slowly.
Slowly. Not instantly, and not staying flat.
Exactly. If it stays flat, it's overproofed, the yeast is exhausted. If it snaps back instantly, it's underproofed and needs more time. That slow, lazy bounce back means it's alive, full of gas, but still has structural integrity.
I love that. You're shaking hands with the dough to see if it's ready.
That's a great way to think about it.
Now, the notes distinguish between pizza and bread here. The goal isn't exactly the same, is it?
No, different destinations.
Yeah.
Pizza dough loves to be wetter, more extensible.
Extensible meaning stretchy.
Yeah. You know how a good pizza dough stretches beautifully without tearing? That comes from a wet, relaxed, long-fermented dough.
And bread.
Bread needs a bit more tension so it stands up tall. And for bread, there's one crucial tip for the oven. Steam.
Steam. Like a tray of water in the oven.
Exactly. That humidity at the beginning is huge.
I think that would make the crust soggy.
It does, but that's what you want for the first 10 minutes.
Yeah.
It keeps the outside of the loaf soft and flexible so it can expand fully. That's called oven spring.
And that's how you get that big, beautiful dome.
That's it. The oven is the final stage, but the dough has to be alive when it gets there. A hot oven won't save dead yeast.
It really does all come back to that initial idea, doesn't it? It's a relationship.
It really is.
So let's recap. We started with baking as this battle against lazy ingredients, but the reality is completely different.
The reality is that yeast wants to work for you. It's hardwired to make bread. The source material put it beautifully. If you don't burn it, dehydrate it, or rush it, yeast works for you unconditionally.
It's not asking for much, just a tropical vacation and some personal space from the salt.
And in return, your kitchen thanks you. It thanks you with silence because you're not cursing its sticky dough. And it thanks you with that incredible smell.
There's nothing like that smell.
Nothing. And you realize that good dough rises with understanding, not force.
Good dough rises with understanding, not force. That's a surprisingly deep takeaway from a chat about pizza crust.
Well, it applies to a lot of things, doesn't it? Parenting, management, gardening. Creating the right conditions usually works better than trying to force a result.
That is definitely something to chew on. So for everyone listening, here's your challenge for the week. Obviously, try baking something with these tips.
Try the finger test.
Yeah.
And don't be afraid of the sticky dough.
Exactly. Oil your hands. But also think about that final thought. Where else in your life are you trying to force a rise when maybe you should be focusing on the conditions?
Nurture the environment, and the result usually follows.
We'll leave you with that. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the microscopic world of your kitchen.
Happy baking.
See you next time.